Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where badass women like you come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of women who dare to dream and design their own destinies. Now, this is your time for no bullshit, so no subject is off limits. This is a time for you to collect inspiration and create the vision for your life. Get ready to break free from societal expectations, take your power back, and step into your dream life. Your empowerment journey begins right here. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. And I am so excited today because we are going to dive deep into rediscovering passion and purpose with the one and only Jessica Laughlin. Now, if you're not familiar with her, she and I are very close. So I am excited to have you meet her and get to know her. She is such a powerhouse in everything that she does. And I'm going to let her dive into this in just a second. But Jessica is somebody who, as a coach, empowers creative female entrepreneurs with insights so that they can have success and strategize for everything that they want. We're going to talk probably a little bit about her community and what she envisions for that, but she is the founder of the Creative Entrepreneur Society. So if that sounds good to you, you guys definitely want to stick around because we are going to talk a little bit about that as well, but let's dive in. Jessica, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to share you with all of our listeners.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting and fun.
Yeah, it's so good. And I'm so excited to talk about passion and purpose with you. You and I have had this conversation before, but it's so important because as women, we forget how to do that sometimes, and it's so funny because to be in the feminine energy, because we are feminine by nature, you would think that that would be so easy, and it's not. But I want to start before we dive deep into that with you just introducing yourself and telling everybody a little bit about you and the Creative Entrepreneur Society.
Yeah. So I am the founder of the Creative Entrepreneur Society, and a coach for people who are aspiring to build their businesses from scratch, or even, women entrepreneurs. We are a lonely group out there. Sometimes we just need that little extra support. So I really wanted to create a community of like-minded women who are wanting to build a business or go for that dream life. And so that's why I created the Creative Entrepreneur Society for that purpose. For mamas who are feeling lonely when they're trying to have a side hustle, to those that are daydreaming about their, a dream life of working for themselves. That's what this is for those people who are wanting something better. They want a community and they want the steps on how to get them from ground level to next level. That is what we do at the Creative Entrepreneur Society. So
Yeah.
what
I
else
love
would you
that.
like to know?
All of the things. I know that they want to know all of the things. And since we're here to talk about passion and purpose, I'm curious when, because your business is called Creative Entrepreneur Society, how heavily do you touch on the idea of passion and purpose with clients, and how important do you think that is in really everything that we do?
It's probably part of the foundation of everything that we talk about in Creative Entrepreneur Society. Passion and purpose is something that if you're not passionate about what you're doing, chances are some things are going to fall flat. But when you can wake up every day and you find joy and you really see stuff that's coming to life and you get excited about it, your purpose is just on the other side of that. It's like you're creating everything that's exciting is leading you to your purpose because you love it, which is laid on your heart. In my opinion, everything is laid on our heart for a reason, which I think is our purpose. So
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think as women, like I mentioned earlier, it's hard to lean into that and actually allow ourselves the space to be able to do that because we think we need to be of service to others all the time, or we need to stick with a safe career. That's kind of what comes to mind for me because I was raised in a very middle class family who raised me to think, you stick with the safe career you have, you keep your head down, you punch in, you punch out, do what you're supposed to do. And you do that in aims to have a solid retirement and to have yourself and your family taken care of. And I used to always think that it doesn't have to just be that, right? That it's actually less normal to have a job that you hate that sucks your soul out when you could have both, and that's kind of been a big part of my journey too, is like figuring out that doesn't make sense and that there has to be something out there that aligns with me, that lights me the fuck up and just keeps
Yeah.
me so excited every single day. So like what do you think is just something that would be super helpful for women to be able to kind of explore that, to lean into what they would even be passionate about, whether they want to be an entrepreneur or not?
This is a really interesting conversation, and I could go into so much detail here. But one of the biggest parts of this is what is going to help you live authentically? What's the
Yeah,
path that you want to go down that really, guides you to the feeling like you are listening to your inner voice of what you want to do, or taking that courage to just, step off the path and start exploring what truly resonates with you. It's having faith in yourself so much and listening to the inner version of you to come up with the answers. I mean, we could come up with strategies all day long on how to get there, but you have to know internally if it is really meant for you. We always get the chatter, other people telling us what we should be doing. You should do this, you should do that. Do you listen enough to yourself? What do you want to do? What is the path that you want to take? Because if you're not doing that, you might want to reevaluate. Look at that. Go a little bit deeper into what is it that you truly want to do? What really sets your heart on fire? And go after that, because I guarantee there's going to be successes that lead right after that.
yeah. And what was that journey like for you when you decided you wanted to make a career shift and shift into something you were more passionate about?
Oh man. So my journey has been all over the place. There's all kinds of twists and turns and moments of confusion and moments of clarity. And, there were times where I felt completely lost, completely unsure of my direction, disconnected from what truly, truly mattered to me. But, I had to really get into like introspect, right? Like really get in there and commit to my own personal growth. It's really uncovering, again, when I say this, it's like uncover what set your soul on fire. Because if you can't figure that out yet, spend more time figuring it out. What sets your soul on fire? Write it down. Write down, what am I interested in? Just start with that simple thing. What are the things that I'm interested in? And if you don't know, maybe it's go try some new things out. Go
Yeah,
online, see what other people are doing and say, am I interested in that? Because if you are, explore it a little bit further. But I think usually we know the things that we're interested in and we kind of just like put them down a little bit and we're like, oh, it's not the right time.
totally.
But if you channel that back up, like, okay, what is it about? Let's just say I love to paint. Okay. I put that away for a really long time because I just wasn't feeling creative, or so I thought. But I wasn't giving myself the time and space to actually paint and get creative. I was thinking it should come to me immediately and I should be able just to slap something on the paper. That's what we think we should be able to do with our life. Just slap it
Yeah.
on the paper
Yeah.
and it should be perfect. It's not like that. Sometimes you have to sit quietly and just look at the blank page and go, okay, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to create here? What do I want to see come out of this? What kind of a 3D image do I want to put in my life on paper or whatever? This is just an example, but you really have to dive a little bit deeper into what it is that you want, but also give yourself time and space. Let it breathe sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So how long did it take you to let things breathe? Because I know you were a hairstylist for a long time, and I know that was something you were definitely passionate about as well. But when you were thinking about making this shift and becoming a coach in that transitionary period, how long did you have to sit with that before you were like, no, this is it. Like this is my new passion. Because that's the thing too, passions can change, right? So how
Oh,
long did
yeah.
that take for you to figure out?
Oh, so my journey's been an interesting one. So, like she mentioned, I was a very successful hairstylist for 22 years. And I knew from the moment I was got to high school that I was going to be one of the top hairstylists in Seattle, Washington. And that's what I was going to do. And that was my vision. And I held it and I essentially I went and I did that. I created that life for myself. But as I started to evolve, things happened. I'd worked my way up really high in this really successful salon and became a manager. And I coached a lot of the younger stylists and things like that. And I started to fall in love with coaching. And I realized quickly that a lot of the mindset work was helping them get out of their own way so that they could be successful. So I started cultivating the coaching side of that. And then that started to evolve and change. And I'm like, I really started feeling pulled towards more coaching entrepreneurs. Not only that, is as a hairstylist standing behind the chair, people sitting in my chair were constantly talking about things that they wish that they could go do. Man, it's like, oh, I'm doing this 9 to 5 job, or I'm working in this corporate job and I hate it. And I just wish that I could go do this X, Y, and Z. And so that sparked this aspiring entrepreneur kind of mentality where it's like, you can go do that. Let's just get out of your own way. So that's kind of where that whole thing sparked. But it took me 8 years to really cultivate that. And then I went through coaching process and, getting my certification and all these things to get there, because I was like not confident in the coaching at the start. Cause I thought, well, who am I to be doing this? As we
Yeah.
know, imposter syndrome sneaks in, like, who am I? But I've been doing it for the last however many years, without needing to go and get my certification.
Yeah.
So it took me quite a long time to actually be like, okay, I'm doing this. But for me, COVID was one big turning point to really like catapult that into the coaching world. Just to like really, it shut everything down. My business shut down. I had a brick and mortar business, and COVID shut my business down. I couldn't do work. So that was where I really dove into coaching and started thriving in that business and moving that further ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. So I want to highlight that for a moment that, if you're a driven woman and you're in business right now and there's something that used to light you up, maybe you're so damn successful at the business that you have now, whether it's product based, the brick and mortar, maybe you do work remotely with clients, that it's okay at any time to change that. Because as we grow and we learn and we explore this world and have new experiences, sometimes the things that we're passionate about change, and that's okay. And I think I've experienced this as well, where we have so much resistance to the change because we're like, oh, well, we've told people that, like in your case, I want to be the best hairstylist and I'm there, and people are going to think it's weird if I change. But there's absolutely no shame in making that change. So I want to challenge and really empower everybody who's listening to lean into that. If as you're listening to Jessica speak today and you're thinking, oh my God, like I so resonate with this journey and I want to make a change too, to lean into that, to listen to that, because your passion, your interest, like that is such a big piece of who you are. And instead of pushing that down or keeping it for private, in your private life, bring it out for the world to see, because there's a reason, like you said, that that's on your heart. And the more passion and purpose you have in every single thing you do, the more energy you're going to have. I had a comment on my Instagram today, because we haven't officially released this podcast yet, and I leaked the intro, and I had a comment on that reel that said, I don't know how you have the energy for everything, because they know that I have a full-time coaching gig. I do a part-time coaching gig. I own my own mobile bar business and then the podcast, and I have all of these things. And she said, I don't know how you have the energy for all of this. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, because I listen to my intuition and I lean into the things that excite me and the things that feel amazing. And if one day one of those things doesn't feel great, then I'm going to stop doing it because it doesn't light me up anymore. But man, I am busy. I will tell you that I am so busy, but I am so excited about pretty much everything I do every single day. And it's because I'm leaning into that passion. I'm not living my life for somebody else. I'm living my life for me so that I can not only impact others, I can have the life that I ultimately want, you know?
Love that. Yes. Yes. Here's the thing though, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling uncertain with your direction, my advice would be to embrace the journey of self-discovery. Bottom line, like go in there, take that time to really reflect on what brings you joy. What are you passionate
Yes.
about? Or what values are really important to you? trust that the answers are going to reveal themselves in due time. It's not just going to happen overnight. But also be open to exploring new opportunities and also the experiences that you'll have along the way. That's the biggest thing. Is like there's so many cool experiences that come out of the exploration phase.
Yeah. Yeah. And when they're exploring, because this is something I talk about a lot in my program, it comes up a lot on this podcast for obvious reasons, but how how would you define what the difference is between an interest and a true passion?
That's a great question because it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
An interest is something that you find fascinating, right? Something that you're just, oh, that's interesting. A passion is something that you're like, I could talk about this literally all day, every day. Like I am, for you and I, we're very passionate about what we talk about. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
right out of the gate, like if you're talking about it and you can talk about it for hours with anyone and anyone who will have an open ear and you can talk about it, that would be considered a passion. An interest is something, oh, that's interesting. Like I really like fashion. It's interesting to me, but I don't talk about it all the time. So that would be, does that make sense? Like the interest is something,
Yes.
just something that you're interested in. Like there's things where I look at and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I really like the idea of learning more about NLP. It's not my passion. So I'm not going to go and get certified in that, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you can kind of feel that in your body, right? And I don't want to get too esoteric or, hippie, whatever you want to call it on this episode in particular. There are plenty where we're going to do that, but you could kind of feel it in your body. Like, do you feel this energetic rise? And I think it actually might be NLP where you like feel up, like you actually feel the energy like flow up versus flow down. And you can actually feel that. And I don't care who you are or how spiritual you are, how not spiritual you are, you can feel that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you feel it. And the best way that I can describe what a passion is, it's the same when you hear a song that is like your song, like something that emotionally moves you. It feels very similar to that. Now, you may not want to be a musician, right? But the way that you connect to the music, at least for me, when I hear a song that it just like hits me, not because it's a banger and it's like so popular, but something that emotionally moves me. That's the same way that I feel when I'm working in my business. It's the same way that I feel when I'm working with women and seeing their transformation.
Yeah, I think it also comes down to authenticity and aligning with
Yes.
your values, right? So true passions are often, honestly, I think they're deep rooted and they bring a sense of fulfillment or purpose. While, like the more of the fleeting interests, the things that we're like, oh, I'm just interested in this, they might be more surface level and maybe more temporary.
Mm,
Right. So you
yeah.
want to pay attention to what is consistently energizing you. What's
Yeah.
motivating you or what's kind of like filling you with fire, right? Like, ooh, that's really exciting. Or I'm very passionate about talking about this. And don't be afraid to pursue those passions wholeheartedly either. That's the other side of that. It's like, if you're feeling that draw, go explore it.
Yes. Yeah. And this is something you can completely do on your own too. Like, I just want to say that first and foremost, you can absolutely, because you know what your passions are, you know what you're interested in. It's going to be trial by fire. Like, go try things, see what works for you. However, the thing I want to touch on, because I know this is going to be a shorter episode than what we would normally do, I want to touch on the importance of having women by your side, having a community of women who understand what you're going through, a community of women who can also help you to find what ignites that passion and purpose for you. And obviously, Jessica, you are the perfect person to talk to about that with your Creative Entrepreneur Society. So I want to just shift a little bit into that and what vision you hold for this community that you help, the women that you hold up, and how they could expect to connect and really ignite this, because this is like everything, I feel like.
Absolutely. Like we were just tapping in, community is everything. When you're changing roles or when you're trying to go into something and you kind of start to feel like you're alone, and when you're an entrepreneur, you're at home, you probably have an at home office, you're working by yourself, and there's not a lot of, you don't have a whole office that you're working with, right? So you're feeling lonely. The idea about your community is that you have people who are like-minded, who aspire to do something similar or are aspiring to do something better or greater for themselves. And so that is why having a community to me is so important, because you can talk to other people who are in the same boat. You can talk to people who understand what you're up to, or at least the ideas of what you're doing, because they're in something similar. The community, as you know, like Vanessa and I talk about this all the time. Like when you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, you grow exponentially. You're only as good as the 5 people that you're around. I'm sure we've all heard
Yep.
that, right? You're only as good as the 5 people that you're around. If you're one of the 5 that is leading the charge, you might want to reevaluate who you're hanging out with. What the community, the one that I'm bringing together and having together, is like, let's light each other on fire. Let's push ourselves to our greatest potential. Get yourself like so fired up that you have no choice but to excel, because you're around all these people who are just as lit up as you are, because it's exciting, it's fun, and it's, yes, is it hard? Absolutely. But we're pushing each other. We're holding each other accountable. We're taking what you feel like is hard, and maybe somebody else knows, oh, wait, I've got a solution for your problem. Here, let's work together. There's that
Yeah.
community that work off of each other and kind of just help each other out when you're feeling alone. You're not alone. You've got this whole community, and they might not
Yes.
even be in the same city as you. That's the beauty of community, is it can be international. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the importance of community to me. And what I'm trying to build is like, hey, you're not alone in this. We are building and we're rising together.
Yes. And it's so powerful. And I have different groups of communities and coaches and events entrepreneurs for my other business that I've connected with. And there's so much power in that, because when you're feeling like you're on a low, they're on a high, right? So they can remind you, if you've of course shared your passion with them, they're going to remind you. They're going to slap you around when you're feeling less than. And honestly, it doesn't matter if you're building a business or not. Like, I know we're talking about it in an entrepreneur sense, but it doesn't matter. This could be for anything that you want in your life. Just like, imagine if everybody was like your bestie, everybody was your BFF. You had a whole circle of that, and they would just throw massive props to you, massive parties and celebrations for you every time that you had
Totally.
something to have, right? And not everybody in your life is going to understand that. And so you have these people, you're picking that piece of your family. And so I know no matter where I'm at, I have a community that I can turn to who's going to celebrate the shit out of me, even if I don't want to, even if I'm like, well, this wasn't that great. I have people that are just going to be like, hell no, like this is the best thing ever, like great job, or you know what, that's okay, get up and try again, right? Or oh my God, you went skydiving, you tried this, that's amazing, like tell me all about it. And it just makes you feel so good about yourself, and it helps you, I feel like, to when you're on this journey, because again, it's so hard to connect to that you have to lean into it and you have to explore, but you have like your communities, like your bumpers, like it's a bowling alley, and they're those are your bumpers. So you slide off to
I
the
like,
side and they don't let you fall off, right? Like you still get all the way down to the pins and you find what your purpose is. And so I think there's so much value in it. I love that. I don't have a community. We have like a baby Facebook group. Not a lot happens on there, but I love that you have this amazing vision for this community, because I think that it's so needed. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who don't do communities right. I think that they're missing that piece. It's like they're trying to kind of run it as a machine. And I think it is missing, well, it's missing the passion piece,
it's
right?
missing the community piece, right? It's
Yeah.
like you want to have champions in there with you. You don't want to have necessarily cheerleaders. And I don't know if you know the difference between a cheerleader and a champion. My mom's a cheerleader. She's like, you are doing so great. Keep going. That's my cheerleader. A
Yep.
champion to me is somebody who's there holding your hand and saying, you know what, you've got this. When you start to stumble, they're there like, hey, no big deal. You're doing great, but here's something you might want to try. That's the champions that I really want to hone in and like and cultivate within our community groups, because if you have all cheerleaders all the time, you don't ever feel like you're not doing, how do I say this? You're never failing necessarily, but you're always feeling like, oh, they're always doing that a girl. And it doesn't ever feel authentic and 100%.
Yes.
If that does that make sense? But when you've got a
So much sense.
champion, because they're still going to tell you like, hey, you could have maybe tried a little something different there. You still did a great job, but could I give you a piece of advice? Or would you like a little bit of coaching on this? Or can I just show you maybe a different way that you might get there a little bit better? Let's grow together. Let's take our
Yeah.
hands together and let's grow together. That's a champion to me. So I want a room full of champions with me.
Yes. I love that. And I love that you brought that up because that's something I encounter a lot. Like, because I've always been an achiever. I've always had to get these accomplishments and these accolades. And um, of course, because I am that way, that's something that I have always needed to like seek approval, right? And it's something that it's taken me a long time to work through. But it's interesting because when I share something with any, I don't want to say like anybody, but a lot of people, and they'll just be like, "Oh my God, that's so good. It's wonderful." And I don't get any feedback. And I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not perfect because nobody's perfect. We can always learn and we can always grow. And at least for me, especially if it's something that I'm passionate about, if I'm not getting any constructive criticism, any feedback, any tweaks, anything that I can do that's slightly new, it makes me feel less excited about my passion. And I want everyone listening to really hear this because this is like a whole nother rabbit hole, this kind versus nice concept where it's like if somebody has something in their teeth, we don't tell them because it's nice. We don't want to embarrass them. But the kind thing to do would be to embarrass them in the moment so they can go to the bathroom and get the broccoli out of their teeth so that they don't see it in front of everybody. Right. So that's just my short little explanation on what that is. But if we're being truly kind to each other, we would not only support each other in our endeavors and in our passions, but we would also be honest about it because we can get better with things. And inevitably, if you're doing this right and you're looking for this community and you connect to people, there's somebody who's done it and they've been there already. So those people should be able to give you feedback because can feel a little like burnouty if you're just, oh my God, I'm so passionate about this. And everyone's like, yeah, 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 great, great, great. And it's like, well, are you even watching? Are you even engaged with what I'm doing? Like, are you reading what I'm sending you? Or, whatever have you? It feels kind of lame. Right. So I want to encourage everybody to give people honest feedback because if you love them, you want to treat them with kindness and with respect, and you want to give them the honest answer. If they have something that they can improve on, freaking tell them, let them know, because otherwise somebody's either walking around feeling like, well, maybe this isn't that exciting because you feel like you're so good at it that it's like, well, now this is boring. Or you have somebody walking around with a really big head with a big ego because they think that they're perfect at everything. And obviously, there's a lot on that spectrum, but so important to give people honest feedback because they can't learn, they can't grow. And honestly, I'm more motivated when somebody gives me an honest tweak. And I found myself even recently like begging people to give me honest answers. Like I'm going outside of my circle and I'm like, will you please look at this for me and just give me some feedback because everybody is telling me this is great. And I know there has to be something. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to add to that.
The other side of that too is do not take it as being like, oh, you're not doing a good job when somebody gives you constructive
Right.
feedback. Is like
Yes.
actually take it and be like, thank you for loving me that much or caring about me so much that you would actually help me on this journey. That's another side of that is not being
Yes.
defensive and thinking, well, I think it's great. Great. I'm glad you think it's great. 100%. But just take it and see what you can take from it and leave the rest. If there's something in there in their feedback that's, something that's a golden nugget, take that. And if there's something that you didn't like, then leave it. So I just wanted to add that in there with that.
Yes. And it makes things so much more dynamic in your life because even if you do it one way that's working to hear it another way, then you can it just yeah, it's just more dynamic. Like I don't even know how else to say it. It's like, where you can do things from here or you can do things from here and it makes it more exciting and more fun to be able to pivot like that And I guess I'm speaking in like in terms of coaching really, but this applies to anything, like even my mobile bar business, to be able to know how to manage pars effectively and to be able to order things. There's going to be a different strategy for that. There's going to be different strategy when I could close sales calls for that, or how I might manage a bachelorette party versus a wedding. Like I just booked a 400 person wedding, largest event that I've ever done. So I have a bartender helping me, and it's been a long time since I worked in hospitality and had an event that big. So I called my old general manager and I said, "Hey, I haven't done this in a long time. Help me with this," because there's always a different way. There's always a different perspective and
Right.
something different you can take. But then I got excited because I was like, yeah, now I have a strategy. I have something new I just learned and I just applied it. And it really helps you to stay on that path of exploration, finding what your purpose is, and again, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not. I know that's kind of the frame that we're taking, but this could really be anything.
It really
This
can
could
be
be,
anything. Hmm.
yeah, I mean, this might be better coming from you because you have children and I do not, but if you're a mom who's a stay-at-home mom and you have like that mom guilt and you want to explore something different, not abandoning your mother duties, of course, but maybe there's something else that's on your heart that you want to try. Like, how else do you know? Maybe you network and you talk to other stay-at-home moms in your neighborhood, or the kids that you play date with, talk to their moms. And what are you doing? What have you tried that lights you up? And getting some feedback and getting some thoughts from other people to kind of play with and explore. Like, I don't know if you probably have
Absolutely.
more to add to that than I do, but
You're right on track with that. With, like stay-at-home moms and things like that, or even working moms, there is some guilt that goes behind that. Whether you're working full time and you're going home and you're like, I just want to work on my passion project to really get something going, or my side hustle, but you feel like you've got your kids, so you've got to spend the time with them. Absolutely. But they do go to bed. So carving out that time to working on what lights you up, to really cultivate, like, what is that passion? Get up a little bit earlier. This goes for people who don't have kids as well. We still
yeah.
have other things that are going on in our life, full-time jobs. We've got friends and family and other people that are still wanting our time, and you should give that to them as well. But also carve out your time. It could be just a couple hours a week. It could be an hour a day. It could be 30 minutes in the morning. It could be 30 minutes in the afternoon. Find your time to really cultivate what it is that you want in life and go live it. Go explore it. If maybe you want to get better at the gym and you don't know how to do that, you might want to go find a gym buddy who's been a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, I want to learn how to do a new yoga pose, right? And I don't know how to do it. Go find somebody who is doing that pose and go, hey, can you show me how to do that? Because you might be passionate about learning that, which could turn into maybe become a yoga instructor. I don't know. That was just an example, but there's so many different ways that you can find your passions and turn it into something really amazing if you look for it and you kind of start understanding what it is that you truly enjoy in life. Ultimately, life is short. We know this, right? If you're not living your life to the fullest potential, go find how you can do that. So I'm very passionate about that conversation as well. Just
Yeah.
and that's a whole other probably podcast, but life is short. So don't sit on your dream. Don't sit on something that you're passionate about just because you don't think you have the time and the space for it. Carve it out, find it, and go live it.
Yes, because you don't want to be that person on your deathbed saying, God damn it, I wish that I
Yes.
would have done this with my life. I wish I would have spent a little bit of time with this. If you try it and you hate it, so what? If you do it for a few years and decide to stop, so what? But don't, and obviously I'm piggybacking off of you. I don't even need to say that, but we don't need to fall into what everybody else is doing, right? We don't need to fall into the, drink on the weekends, sleep in, be tired all week, run on coffee and unhealthy foods. And we don't have to do that because other people are doing that. We can make our decisions and discover what lights us up, and we don't have to follow what everybody else in our circle is doing. We get to pick our circle, especially in this online world. Like we can find a community of whoever we want to, but just I know that there's lots of quotes out there about not being average. And so I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole, but truly, to your point, Jess, is you have this one life to live. It is all you get. You get one shot only. So why not make it the best damn life? Why not be the most powerful version of you, the most
Right.
embodied, the most present, the most passionate version of you? Whether you have kids or you don't, you're in a couple, you're single, it doesn't matter. Like how amazing it is to know who you are as best as possible, because I think we're always learning that, but to actually lean into things that are exciting. So you're lit up, you're excited from the moment you wake up to the moment your head hits the pillow. You can't wait to do it all over again. And you can be truly present with people because you're not constantly in your head thinking, well, do they think this about me? Do they think that about me? Because you no longer care about that. When you're
Right.
just you, you're just authentic, you're just in your passion. And that also helps with your fulfillment, right? Your purpose and your own well-being. And there's so much that encompasses it that I really can't stress that enough, to not fall into the patterns that everyone else is around you doing. Find your own path and explore that and try things and pick your people, man, because you have so much control at your fingertips.
Right. You were saying, like, life circumstances and the external pressures, they can absolutely dampen our sense of purpose. But it's so important to remember that we have the power to navigate those challenges. We can reignite our own enthusiasm, I believe, for a life and
Yeah.
whatever it is that you want to go do. This might even be setting boundaries, or even, reassessing, like, what are your priorities, or even like, like just seeking support from others, like finding your community of like-minded people, right? Just staying true to yourself and really focusing on what truly matters to you right now. Over that'll just help you overcome any obstacles that you're going to have coming along the way. Also, it just helps you rediscover what your sense of purpose is. Like those boundaries, I swear, if you put boundaries in place, sometimes that really helps you navigate your life. And then ultimately, I don't know, I think it brings back, what is your purpose? Oh, I set boundaries. Now those people that are kind of taking away from what I really enjoy are kind of on the outskirts now. I don't have to listen to them anymore, and I can focus on what I truly want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you also know, when you lean into all of those things, what you want versus somebody else. Cause I know for me, for a long time, I would think I wanted something, but it was actually because somebody else wanted it for me.
Yeah.
And that's the worst. That's the worst feeling in the world, especially when you haven't identified yet that you don't actually want it, because you don't know why there's so much resistance, why it's so hard for you. Like, why is it so stressful? Because you don't want it.
Right. It was somebody else's vision for you.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you almost have to either rediscover or actually discover what your passions are. If you don't know, if somebody else has been kind of the person like, oh, I think you'd be really good at this. And you're like, you're right, I probably would be. So you go and you do that. You've never had the chance to cultivate what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So therefore, I would suggest giving yourself that time and space once again, like really just sit with it. And it could take you a year or longer, 8 years in my for me, but it's like it can take some time, and give yourself that space to really embrace the self-discovery, staying really true to yourself. That's one thing. Stay really true to yourself, and then pursue your passions with intention. Like, what is my intent behind it? Can really unlock, I really think it can unlock meaningful fulfillment and joy if you really lean into it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it so can. It so can. So for anybody who wants to be intentional with that and state what their intention is for what it is they want to set out to do, what would you recommend? How should they start with that?
Well, first of all, is again going back to understanding, what are you passionate about? If you don't know, go explore. Sit with your time and write down the things that you really enjoy. Put them into categories. Like, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking about this. I really enjoy researching this. Go through the different things in your life that you enjoy doing and you're going to start to see a pattern. The patterns are there, success leaves clues. We say that, but so
Yeah.
does your passion. Your passion leaves clues. You could even go into your browser history and see what were the last 20 things that you searched for as something you're passionate about. You go look on your Instagram, like search history, or your, what do you call that? Where the things that they show on the other page. What is that called? It's like
Like suggestions?
explore page. The
Oh,
explore
yeah.
page will also show you what you're passionate about, because it's showing you
True.
the things that you have either liked or something similar to that. So passions leave clues just like success leaves clues. So go see what that looks like. You might not even know that you have a passion until you start to explore that. Those would be like the top ones I would suggest to start out with.
Yes, I know. I'm sure many people listening right now are thinking, well, that just means I'm really passionate about cat videos because I know there's so many people who love cats. But you know what? Maybe that's a sign you need to go work with cats. Maybe you need to go volunteer at a shelter or something. You might want to, that could feed a lot of passion. I did that for a long time too. Not with cats.
Absolutely.
I'm a dog person, but I did that for a long time too. So you truly never know where those things are going to lead
That's
you.
right.
So hot
I've seen
tips.
some very, very successful people who are very into like needlework, right? They're like, oh, it's just a hobby. I do it on the side. But they were so passionate about it because they would search out different who was doing it. They would search out new patterns. They would search out all these things. All of a sudden, they realized, well, this is my passion. I actually really could talk about, knitting all day long. They created a course around knitting, and now they're making six figures in
Yes. Oh my God.
knitting.
You were just telling me this, weren't you?
Yeah, it's
That is
it's
wild.
so crazy to me. Like
So cool.
something that you just think is like a no-brainer is like, oh, it's just something I like to do. And they all of a sudden they turn it into a business that's doing very well for itself. But the
Yeah.
other side of that is believing that you can do it, and believing that somebody else is out there wanting what you have to offer. There's a whole
Yeah.
other side of that we could go into at another time, but there's
Yeah.
definitely leaning into your passions, because you never know where those passions can lead you. It could lead you to a six-figure, seven-figure business. You just never know.
Yep. Yeah. And it's just that curiosity, being in flow, seeing where it takes me. Right. So good. So good. So, if anybody who's listening here has really resonated with you, which I'm sure that they have because you're just so amazing, you're such a wealth of information, especially when it comes to this community aspect and talking about passion and purpose and all of these amazingly good things, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now you can you can find me on Instagram. There are all kinds of things coming in there, and it's at Jessica_Laughlin1. Or you can go into www.thecreativeentrepreneursociety.com, and you'll see our community. It's going to be growing. It's going to be thriving here soon. So definitely go and check that out.
Amazing. Well, Jessica, thank you so, so much for your time. I'm definitely going to have you back here sooner rather than later so we can dive into some more topics. But I so appreciate you diving into passion and purpose with me today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.